This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
We're going to be chatting about mental health stuff today, and if you are not in a space where that's a good thing for you to be listening to, we get it. It's cool. Join us next time.
Hey! Come on!
Babes, listen. It's time to jump on into it with your pals Nat and Jess and catch up on all things women's health and fitness.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Babes Listen. Oh, wow, I just had a lot of saliva in my mouth. Babes,
We need to bring those tissues over here for your mouth this time.
What? Gross.
Not just your eyes.
No, I'm not going to put
Just in
tissues
case
in my
you
mouth.
dribble and then spit it everywhere. That
You're
would
rude.
be
Anyway,
awkward.
do you want to introduce our very, 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 very important guest?
Yes, I really do, and no spitting on her, please. So today, I've chatted about this a few times because that's how excited I am. Today, it's bring your therapist to work. And I am absolutely a participator.
I didn't bring mine. Sorry.
Next time. We haven't had 4 people, but imagine that. That would be fun. Anyway, so we've got the lovely Amy joining us today, who is a psychologist, an incredible psychologist, and I know that from personal experience. So welcome, Amy.
Hello, thank you for having me.
To the world of podcasting, and we talked about it before. This is the first podcast
It is.
that you're doing. So understandably, some kind of nervous excitement about coming along and chatting with us for that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is great. We love that because I believe from my calculations we're up to about 95 episodes now.
He's about to check.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I put in my calendar, I think. Oh, no, I did something on my calendar and to say, I was going to plan something.
She's excited for the 100.
Well, I just think we should do something.
Yeah.
You know, like whether it's like a giveaway or something,
Celebrate
you know?
some-
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a few weeks to sort it out, but enough about that. So I really wanted to bring you on today, Amy, because I do think you're an incredible psychologist, and I've seen a few. And
You have? How many have you seen?
I don't know. I'll do the maths later, but definitely.
rate
Like off the top
out
of
of
your
10.
head. Doesn't need to be
I
exact.
would say probably 7.
Wow, that's a lot.
Is that a lot, Amy?
That's a lot. Is it
We'll
not?
keep it for
Hopefully
keep it for
7
sessions.
and no need for an 8th, you know?
Yeah.
Because you found a really good one.
That's exactly it. Yeah, no, unless you move away or, you know, kind of...
Am I too loud in your ears? Is that why you're turning me
No,
down?
I'm turning it up. No, please don't move. So what I wanted to start with is just so for those of you who are listening, just how did you get into psychology? You know, kind of, was it something you always wanted to do, or did you just sort of accidentally find yourself therapizing people?
accidentally found myself therapizing people. So I actually went to university and I have a degree in biochemistry and genetics. And at the end of that decided this is not what I want to be doing, like working in a lab. Mm-hmm. So I went and worked in bars and stuff and came back and did a paper in psychology, which I was like, this is amazing. So I ended up kind of continuing on from there, did honours and then some research and then, PhD in psychology. So, yeah.
So you started in biochem.
Mm-hmm.
How cool. Do you know Shani started with that too?
Really?
Yeah, she did. Where did you study?
Started at Canterbury. So did biochem and genetics at Canterbury. Yeah. And
So
then
what did you want to
Auckland.
do did you want to do research in a lab originally?
Forensic scientist.
Yeah. No way. That is so cool.
Yeah, that's what I
This is
thought.
really
That's
cool
what I thought. But then at the
in
end of it, I was like,
hindsight.
it's so dry.
Yeah, fair,
like,
fair.
oh my God.
It's like
Where
when
are
I
the
did
people?
architecture and then I was like, I hate it. So I just did 1 year and then moved on. Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. I love finding out people's backgrounds because it does tell you what they're interested into. You know, like you're definitely very science gal. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was sort of, was it more kind of neuroscience as well that you looked at in psychology?
So I'm a neuropsychologist as well. Yeah. So I think it was, I don't know when it was, maybe it was 2017, 18. They brought out a thing that you had to do an application, put forward all your experience and blah, blah, blah. And then you can be called a neuropsychologist. But now I think you have to go through like a specific neuropsychology route at uni. So, yeah. But neuropsychology is interesting too.
So that's sort of like brain chemistry and how the brain works and how that sort of, and I would say that informs you a lot with being a psychologist anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very cool. How long have you been doing it now?
So I did my internship in 2014. So you're practicing then. I was working at a clinic up in Massey University actually. And then from there, I've been working like full time since. So
Yeah.
almost 10 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
I had to fill out an application for some ACC stuff the other day. And I was like, how many people have you seen, with this sort of trauma? And I was like,
How do you
I don't know. I was like, I don't know. And I was like, hundreds?
1,000 plus.
Yeah. And I was just like, my colleague was like, just make up a number.
155.
Hundreds, I remember like when I started and I'd be like, you remembered every single client and every single, and then now I'm like, I still remember.
Do you remember her?
I'm Cara.
Yeah.
And I'm here right now.
Well, they take notes.
I love
maybe
doing
just
notes
before.
for break.
Which podcast is this again? Jess, speak. What was? Oh, that's right. That one.
Diagnosis? Oh yeah, okay. That
We laugh, but the thing is, we were both PTs, so trust me, we understand.
I don't think we see as many people because you would see people sometimes fortnightly, sometimes monthly. Like it's not weekly. You know how PT is always weekly, right?
Yeah.
Generally, unless it's fortnightly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like you're more likely to remember, and you have less. You've got patients, but we have clients.
Yeah.
Less clients as a PT. Would you not say?
I reckon you guys would have more.
Really? But we see them weekly though, so we can't. You could fit more, I suppose.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
caseload.
So it would be, yeah. But I do I don't PT at the moment, but I would be like, which knee is it again? The right one, okay, great. Yeah, your right knee's okay, great.
Yeah. Or what's this person into again? I'm just sharing. I just had this really awkward
Not really,
situation.
just 'cause it's every week.
No, but I had this awkward situation where I trained someone, and I think it might have been the third or fourth time that I trained them, and I confused them with someone else. And so I was asked them about something.
But had you been 3 weeks into the job?
All-ish, yeah.
That's really hard because when you first
people.
start, it's heaps of people that you meet for the first time. I remember being like, are you the nurse? Oh no, you're the nurse. You know what I mean?
True.
That's
Okay.
hard when you first start.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Can I just clarify? I don't forget my clients.
Yeah, she doesn't forget her clients.
No,
I've had so many now.
But if you've
hard to
seen
recall them all.
if you've seen someone for 2 sessions 10 years ago, you might not necessarily remember them out of context. Don't worry.
Anyway, that's not what this podcast is about. We're not testing you, Miss Marie.
No, but I actually, my question is sort of like on average, how many sessions do people do? Or is that a really tricky question to answer?
Yeah, I think it can just depends how many hours you're working. So my week might range from 20 to 30. And a busy, before, I've kind of reduced my hours a bit recently, but before it might have been 40. But that's a lot. I feel like that's a lot.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people to look after. Yeah. So, and you mentioned also that sort of before the podcast that you had worked in Bali as well. So that's quite cool. That's quite cool to have kind of done this in Bali. What were the big differences working in New Zealand versus Bali in psychology?
So no boundaries in Bali at all. So there's no like psychologist board. There's nothing like that at all. And then in Bali, it's mainly as mental health, but like addiction. So there's, I think when I was there was 10 drug and alcohol retreats across the island. So I would consult to them. So it's mainly based around kind of intensive retreats, which they do have here, but it's not, not the same at all. But going over there, there's no requirement for notes. There's no requirement for sort of professional boundaries. So you have to kind of hold that, quite strongly yourself. Yeah, interesting. And then as well, like working with expats, but then also I did some work with like local populations and prison populations and stuff over there as well. So,
wow.
Interesting. Really interesting. Yeah.
What's been your sort of most enjoyable area to work in, or sort of group of people, or what's been the most challenging?
Oh, so loved working with, I used to have a contract with the New Zealand Defence Force when I was in Auckland. Air Force, I loved working with the Air Force.
Wow.
Because
why is that?
Most of them are like perfectionists and they all do their homework.
Does she do her homework?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Depends on me.
You're being outed.
No, but you'd get these like...
I love this so much. Carry on.
You're going to be like, where's the confidentiality?
I mean, she's brought you on, so,
I'm an oversharer.
Yeah, we know that.
But with them, we would get like 6 sessions. So it would be like, short term, you kind of are like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. They would go and do their homework. You would see significant change. Probably kind of had to as well because they're being sent to you and then you have to write a report back. But so that was quite nice, like as a baby psychologist, kind of having cases like that. Alcohol and drug addiction is probably definitely the most tricky because relapse rates are so high that you do all this intensive work and then they get on the plane and they're like, whoops, the relapse. You're like,
Oh, no.
really?
Yeah.
Like we've just done 3 months of like 6 sessions a week or something, and then you hear that and you're like, oh, that's a bit of a shame.
Here we go again, yeah.
That has to be the toughest when you're dealing with, like for your brain, like an addiction like that, that can so quickly switch things. That's tough.
Yeah. Prison, I did a stint in the Auckland prison as well, in the child sex offender unit. That was like a difficult population to work with, like in prison and trying to do work with people in there. So, yeah.
Do you mind me asking, so because you've got 3 children and the work that you did in the prison with child sex offenders, was that before you had kids or after?
It's when I had a 2-year-old, so I chose that placement because I thought if I could do that placement that I could do kind of anything in mental health. And actually working in that placement was probably one of the most, I don't know if it like not rewarding, but I learned so much about that population and about how childhood impacts, kind of a lot of things, and how people end up where they are. So it was actually like, it wasn't about me having a child at home and working with this population. I learned just so much more than that from it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It kind of shows that you have good boundaries.
Yeah.
Like within yourself, I mean, like that you can remove your personal life when you're speaking with somebody, and that's, I bet that would be so important.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Because at any point, was it challenging to empathise given that you're a parent?
Yeah, definitely. And you take that to supervision. Like, you have a supervisor that's looking over everything that you do and how you're feeling and all of that. But more it was that I felt so much empathy for what they had been through and how they had ended up in that situation and doing what they had done. I mean, it doesn't take away from, what they had done, but just getting much more of an understanding. It was weird. I was like, I can't believe that this is the way I'm feeling about this, but it was.
I have heard that offenders, very, very high percentage are victims.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just a cycle. So in that way, it's just being. What do you do though to? That's probably quite a big question, but I was like, what do you do to break that cycle?
Yeah, well, hopefully some of the group programs that, I mean, this was back when, in 2013, I think, they did have really cool group programs, and then they were doing individual therapy and stuff as well. So, you know, hopefully those were helping, were working.
And I asked you before, sort of in the time that you were studying to be a psychologist and then working as a psychologist, like at any point were you kind of like, I don't know if this is for me?
Yeah, and I think I said, yeah, multiple times.
Yeah.
I think especially when it's like you're juggling the study, that like seeing clients, and then like you've got your PhD going on in the background, and, you know, life as well. Just when it got quite tough, or like overwhelming, or you had a client that you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here, or something like that, it'd be like, oh my God. But I think that that's probably quite normal in any sort of career or situation, you know, that you're just like, what am I doing? Is this what I should be doing?
I think any challenging career would give you those thoughts, you know? You know what I mean? Like you would just, if it's a challenging spot, well, if you're making a big difference, it probably is challenging. That's a wild statement that I'll just put out there.
No, I like it. I like it. And I guess there's maybe is there a little bit of kind of like imposter syndrome in that as well? You know, where, especially when you're in kind of a role where you're helping someone with their mental health, and like that, what you described is sort of where you feel like you're not really getting anywhere, or you don't quite know sort of how to help, that there would be some self-doubt in that as well. What is your advice for someone who is experiencing imposter syndrome? Like, how did you get over that as a psychologist, and what would your advice be? Tends to happen more with women. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's such a thing. So I took it to supervision, and like in my role, my supervisor was like, you are the expert in the therapies that you're trained in, and, you know, like all the techniques and stuff, and she was like, and your client is the expert in their life. Like you can't be the expert in their life because you don't know. So when you come together, you collaborate on, well, how could I kind of help with this? You know, I'll listen, and I'll, you know, maybe you could try this out for this sort of thing. And she was like, another really good piece of advice she gave me was, you can't fix it all. It's not your role to fix, you know, just as a therapist, like you're there to kind of like validate and help, provide support, but you're not there to fix. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so she just reminds me that every month.
Yeah, because how hard is that to let go of? Because that would be a part of what attracts you to want to do this career, right, is to help people. So how hard is it to let that go when you don't feel like there's progress being made?
Yeah, hard. And that's when I take it, I'll take it, discuss it. Or even like what can be really helpful is actually bringing it to the session and being like, hey, I'm feeling this way. Like, how are you feeling, you know? And sometimes the client will be like, oh, God, I thought we were doing great. And you're like,
Never mind. Never mind. Do you sing when you're awkward in your sessions, or just me?
because I'm a terrible singer.
I'm not good either.
Does your therapist know that you're awkward? When you're actually like, oh, yeah.
I don't think I have sung with her yet, but I do sing a lot in this podcast, don't I?
Yeah.
I'm like, anyways, move on from that. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, real loud, Nico?
Imposter syndrome is a tough one, though. How are you feeling in your new job?
Yeah, real good. I am on top of the world. I am thriving. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. I definitely have imposter syndrome. Every time I send an email, I'm like, do I know what I'm doing? Is this factual? No, but it is. My job is getting better, but this is not about me.
Okay, now.
You want to generalize, don't you? Yeah. No, but like I think it's normal to have imposter syndrome to a certain extent, but I'm sure some more than others. Would you say you definitely get it more than others, Jess? Would you? Sorry. Why are you laughing?
Yes, I think potentially I do. I wonder if imposter syndrome kind of happens a little bit more when you're sort of newer into, your profession
Yeah.
or, so given that I've changed a lot, I've probably experienced it a bit more,
Well, I tend to get it as well, and I think Shani does as well. That's my best friend that we've had on the podcast before. Is when like I succeed at something, and then I'm like, they must have the name wrong, and then somebody will be like, imposter syndrome, right? Yeah, like if I succeed at something, then I'll be like, I'll just wait for the email to be like, sorry, wrong number, wrong email. Bye.
So you're bracing yourself to be found out.
Yeah.
Aye.
Well, did you not want me to share? Because you're like, it's on you now. And then I share and you're like, your response is, aye. Oh boy, we've got some work to do here. Jesus, the last time I share on this podcast.
Well, no tips and tricks for imposter syndrome. Like, what do you do?
I think just normalizing that, like you were saying, that we all experience it to some degree, like earlier on in our career, I still experience it like this far into my career as well, and just being like, okay, we all get it, So I think normalizing in the first instance, and then just reminding yourself that actually I know, I know things. I'm okay, or I can ask if I don't.
Back yourself.
Rather than feeling like, I'm going to be found out. There's this kind of impending sense of doom. Just exactly backing yourself.
I think it's quite nice to know that you get it too. For me and the listeners.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
All the time.
Because the perception too is that I think with psychologists, you think, well, they're they're an expert in mental health and they're an expert in their own mental health, so they must never struggle with anything around that.
They must be perfect.
They must be perfect. So it's quite good. It's refreshing to hear that actually that's not the case.
No, definitely not. My life's a mess.
Yes, I love you already.
So tell me, we have chatted a bit on the podcast, Nat and I, just about, so we've said that we're big fans of therapy, the two of us. For me, I've had a few experiences with it, and for Nat, you're more new to it, but loving it already.
Since I think, when did I start? November maybe?
Maybe, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. What we have acknowledged, though, on this podcast is that we are in a privileged position where we can access that type of therapy. What we wanted to kind of, as I suppose part of the reason of getting you on today as well, is to have a chat about what are our options in New Zealand. And what do you do if you have recognised that maybe you're not feeling so great and not sure what step to take first?
Okay. There's not a lot of options in New Zealand, unfortunately. I mean, there is. But I would say that if you are not feeling great, going probably to the GP in the first instance, if you feel comfortable, with your GP. I actually, in preparation for this, contacted a GP friend of mine and was like, what have we got? What free resources have we got? And he said it's a bit all over the show, but there should be, in most cases, if you ask your GP for it's like a 6-session brief intervention program. So it's with counsellors, but it's free. I think you can probably only access it once. And it also seems a bit variable, what medical centres have got the funding for it.
Right.
But I would just be go and ask. Just be can I get, the brief intervention program? Even if it's just a holding, kind of position until you can, I don't know, get further help or something like that. But that's one thing. Otherwise, it's really, really difficult here. There is not, over in Australia with Medicare, you get, I think it's 10 group sessions and 10 individual sessions with a psychologist funded every year.
Love that.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Everyone?
Yeah.
Everybody.
From what I'm aware of, yeah.
Wow. Oh.
So that's Australian though.
Just
doing a gargle over there.
Do you want some of my water?
I'm just trying to put you at ease, okay?
I know, it's great.
The weird one to put you at ease. Not on purpose, but my body's doing. As I was saying, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know what
Everybody swallow.
do you know what I love about that? The group therapy aspect of it.
Yeah.
I did group therapy for postnatal depression. Such a fun time. Such a good time.
Actually, I don't know if you're being sarcastic. Sorry.
Yeah, that's so random. Are you sure that's the right
It doesn't sound
word of choice?
No, honestly, so fun.
Really fun is the right word for it?
Yeah, group therapy. Like, think about mums. Think about this situation.
Okay.
So when you become a mum, you've got, like, Plunkett, right?
Yeah.
So let's get all these new mothers together and make them compete about who's nailed motherhood first.
Is that what it feels like?
Yeah, whose kids sleeping through the night.
See, that's what I was questioning.
Yeah. But the group therapy for postnatal depression is completely the opposite. It's a group of women where you get together and you basically go, I hate this. This sucks. This is what I really hate about being a mum, and it's so refreshing. And it's like laughing, and so I think group therapy is cool.
Yeah.
I love
you've had a really good experience.
I've had a
That's good.
great experience, but 10 sessions,
In Australia.
individual therapy and group.
Yeah. It's what we need in New Zealand because
my God,
otherwise, there's some online programs and stuff, and then there's texting 1737 and some of the youth lines and that, but I'm not aware of otherwise how to access mental health professionals unless it's private, which is insanely expensive.
Yeah. Sometimes workplaces have got that availability, don't they? But obviously,
Yeah, through EAP.
Yeah.
And then there is the Te Whatu Ora, which you had to get referred to. But when I was working up and this was years ago in Auckland, it was top 3% of severity. So you had to be really, really severe to kind of get the services.
What needs to happen in New Zealand for there to be a shift with that?
In your opinion, obviously you don't need to solve this.
No, but is it just there's a lack of funding for this? Is it that it's not seen as a priority? Is Australia just, they've just decided they've got the cash for it and they're going to invest in that?
I think one, definitely lack of funding. So if we were able to put more funding into mental health resources or initiatives or the Te Whatu Oras, like the DHBs, you could employ more psychologists, social workers, whatever it might be, right? So that would be one. And then I think just the structure, actually, of the mental health system in New Zealand. So if you kind of look at Australia or the UK, they've got this amazing structure. It's like a stepped care structure. So say if you've got mild to moderate anxiety or depression, you wouldn't be prescribed medication straight away. You would be given a self-help program that you'd work through. Hopefully, symptoms would get better. And if they don't, then you get stepped up to the next level, which might be supported self-help. After that, if that doesn't work, then it might be a psychologist and then it might be medication. So
what's the self-help? What is there's an online thing, or
it could be online, or there's books, and they're all based on evidence-based therapies, like CBT, or there's other ones based on ACT, and you just kind of work through it or work through the worksheets, and it's all psychoeducation and skills-based. Super helpful and super doable if you have got mild to moderate problems, because you can still concentrate and you can, be motivated enough to do it. If you've got more severe difficulties, it's harder. It's a lot harder to do something like that. But that system, that mental health system has been hugely, hugely successful in the UK. That's kind of why Australia has followed suit as well. And just unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. It was proposed as in a policy, and I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2017, but nothing's kind of come about. So
it's a shame.
So there's been a lot of chat about, sort of that lack of access to services. But is it there aren't enough psychologists, there aren't enough counsellors, or
all of the above.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
yeah,
And I think also, even if you look at like the training for, say, psychologists, only kind of 6 to 10 and per university will be accepted each year as well. So if we don't have, enough going
Is
through.
that based on that's how many spots we have, or is that based on if you get over, say, 90%, you get in?
I don't even know why there's this limited
'Cause
number,
it
but
is
yeah, it is
really
based on
competitive, eh?
GPA and stuff as well.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
if we're not training enough and then not paying enough and then not...
Then we don't have enough. Because, for me to see my psychologist, I think I had to wait, I can't remember how long, but I had to wait a few months, which, is not that long, really. But at the time, I was like, I started in January because I started in January because I contacted her maybe 3 months before. Yeah, and same for Shani. I think she had the same... I think she had to wait even longer. Yeah, so
It's a long time.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're like, I need it now.
Yeah, and you've actually decided to reach out
Yeah.
and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. Then to be like, you can wait 3 months or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how many people end up cancelling it.
I think a lot do.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. And
It's a
then
shame.
that experience might then prevent them from reaching out again in the future.
Exactly, yeah. Because last time I had to wait and then it didn't happen, so
Yeah.
what's the point now?
And it just reinforces if someone is like really depressed and feeling like no one cares, I'm all by myself, it just kind of reinforces that
Doesn't
as well.
help
So
the narrative, yeah.
So seeing a GP,
yeah.
definitely first step.
Yeah, just reaching out, asking for help, definitely. And it just seems to be that GP is like first point of call.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you can afford, private, just kind of like you can Google like, psychologists in whatever area that you're in. And say, for example, there's a professional membership called the New Zealand College of Clinical Psychologists. You can look up, psychologists in the area or any of those sort of psychologists. But yeah, private is expensive.
It
As you
is.
both know.
Yeah,
It's a real...
Worth
real,
every cent.
Yeah,
It
I'd
is
say it's
totally
an
worth
investment,
it,
but
yeah.
But it's not realistic for a lot of New Zealanders. Do you think there will be a change with this that situation with university where it's kind of the intake is between 6 to 10 people per year? Do you ever see that that's going to increase to reflect the need for professionals in this country?
you'd hope so, right?
Yeah.
You'd definitely hope
Kind
so.
of seems like a no-brainer because so many great people don't get in because it's so limited.
Yeah, and especially with like mental health rates, like medication rates increasing, everything, you would really, really hope so.
If so that's if you are struggling with your own mental health and you've recognised that you are. What about if you have someone in your life that you see is struggling? What is sort of the best approach to support them? Do you have a really honest conversation and say, I've kind of noticed things have changed, or
Absolutely. Just like reaching out and being like, yeah, like you said, like I've noticed things have changed, like do you want to chat? Just being like, I'm here to listen. How can I help? Depending on what they're presenting with, like there can be support available for support people, as well. But yeah, I think just like saying like if you're feeling down and you think someone reaches out to you and be like, hey, I've noticed this, like a friend says that, like what's going on? Do you want to chat about it? You're just gonna, hopefully be like, oh, okay, look, someone cares. So, and then just having someone there to kind of listen and, I mean, I get lots of like emails from partners or, family members and that as well about like, my partner's struggling with this, like, are you able to help? Like, hey, yeah, cool. Yeah.
that's cool. Because I wonder how many people don't approach that because of the stigma around it. And also that feeling of I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't know how to fix it. You know, my mum's incredible. You know, I've talked about my mum in therapy, but my mum's incredible. Very practical. So we're completely opposite, right? So she'll be fixing the fridge and, you know, I don't know where to start.
And Jess will not be fixing the fridge.
I will not be fixing anything. But the emotional space I'm quite comfortable in, right? And she's not. And we've had conversations over the years of sort of like, you know, I've been struggling with my mental health, and she'll kind of change the subject. And when I have asked her about it, she says, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So if someone is listening and they're concerned about someone in their life, but that's how they feel, I don't want to say the wrong thing, I don't really know what to say, I don't know how to fix it, what would be your kind of advice or sort of like examples of, you know?
First of all, I would say to that person, you don't need to fix it. You know, it's not up to you to fix it at all, and that you could not say the wrong thing. Yeah. And just as like an extreme example that's kind of coming to mind is that a lot of people worry that if someone is suicidal, right, that asking about suicide might push them towards it. It does not. It's actually the opposite. So if you think that someone, or you're scared that someone is at risk and you're like, are you suicidal? That's actually going to be more helpful for that person than not. Yeah. So quite an extreme example, but can never say the wrong thing, you know, even if you're feeling really awkward, just being like, I've noticed a change, you know, do you need some help? Whatever, but like addressing it, right? Because this is the thing, is I feel like we need to reduce the stigma, you know, like if you're walking around with a cast on your arm and, you know, we need to take time off for work for that, like that's fine, right? That's broken, you let it heal, you can see it, but you know, it seems to be this thing around mental health because we can't see it. And it's like, well, why is that the case? It shouldn't be, you know. So the more that we ask, the more that we address it, the more that we talk about it, you know.
Reducing the stigma, and then it loses its sting in that way.
That's why we talk about it so much. I think it's just a history of, you know, people finding it embarrassing if it's in their families, or just kind of putting it down to this person just being plain crazy. You know, can't be helped, just crazy. Yeah, so I think it's talked a lot more now than it used to be, and we try and keep on doing it. Like, I think every episode we mention that we have a therapist or something, you know, at least we're like,
yeah, it's great.
Just came back from my therapist, had a big cry or something. You know? What was it that were you talking about when you talked about your therapist? What was it? Your oversharing and something else. What was it? I can't remember.
That having had a therapy,
what did you say?
Having had a therapy session kind of primes me for
oversharing that day.
For oversharing that day. So I do a very, very enjoyable hour with Amy.
Always enjoyable.
Yeah, always enjoyable. Always leave there going, yeah, I feel lighter. You know,
that's cool.
One session, I must say, it was heavy, and I was like, whoa. Anyway, but
that's part of it.
That's part of it. But mostly I leave there going, wow, you know, like I feel lighter. I feel like I understand things better. And then I go out into the world, Nico, and then I just assume that everyone's in that space.
Why are you telling Nico this?
Just looking for backup.
He's got your back. He's got your back.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you're just like out there and you're like...
Well, you feel like your protective blanket is off.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm exposed. We're all naked together. I was...
Don't visualise that.
Going somewhere with that.
Reducing stigma. Being naked together.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I was going to say is that, so I was saying to you, we've been doing this about 2.5 years, right?
Yeah.
And initially this podcast came very much from a place of, fitness-related stuff, because that's our scope of practice. So we wanted it to be very much, there are a lot of myths in fitness, and for women particularly, how should you train your body, how should you feel about your body, and that's kind of where the podcast started. What has happened over 2.5 years is a lot more sharing, I guess, about what we struggle with. So it's less of this sort of like, so this is, this is our scope of practice. We're fitness. Let us educate you on that. I remember like our third podcast was like on strength training.
So
it was so dry. We're like,
So
never
boring.
again. Never again.
Strength training.
Yeah.
I mean, great, do it. Definitely do it. But don't talk about it right now. Come on. Like,
we were boring ourselves. I never want to hear that podcast again. So what's been interesting is that just sharing and actually gaining more confidence. I think, like I had massive shame around having anorexia. And I spoke about it on the podcast, and that's the biggest kind of lift is that I can quite openly talk about it now, and I haven't had that for many years. So
it probably shows how important it is to talk about. You don't have to talk about it on a public forum like this, but talk about it with your friends and family. Like it does definitely make you feel so much lighter than if you keep a secret your whole life. And you think that you're just the complete odd one out when really you're not.
because that experience of shame, that's heavy, right? So not only are you struggling with sort of say feeling depressed or having anxiety or whatever, keeping it to yourself and feeling embarrassed about it just makes it so much worse, right?
Yeah, it does.
That's the tough stuff. And if you cannot afford to go privately and see a psychologist, the GP sounds like a great option, but talking to your friends more open. And then that also offers an opportunity for your friends or your family to feel like that's also a space where they can be vulnerable as well. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that.
Just asking for help, like actually being like, hey, I'm struggling. And also like some psychologists will do sliding scales. They probably won't promote it, but, it can be worth like flicking an email through to, just being like, is this something that you offer as well?
Yeah.
Like a lot are willing to do that.
So a sliding scale?
Yeah, so it might be like that this is my rate, but hey, I have, the ability to kind of do sessions at cheaper rates for people that might not be able to afford it.
Oh, that's cool.
Or like, hey, I'll do 5 or 6 sessions at this rate. And it's worth asking, like,
you've got
if
nothing
they
to
can't,
lose.
you need to say no. They say no, but if they can, a lot of people are willing to want to help.
I guess you get into it in the first place to help.
Amy, what do you do to look after your well-being and your mental health?
Oh, that's a good question.
Nico's nodding. So, like I've mentioned before, I have an amazing supervisor. So we're required to see a supervisor, like a senior psychologist, and she's awesome. I've seen her. She was like my supervisor for my research, and she's like mid-70s, and she just is. She's in Auckland, but she's great. So I see her, and then I also run. That's like a big thing for me.
Oh,
like
cool.
a big
Hey,
thing.
fitness. There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For this podcast.
But she really runs.
Like, really runs.
Like I don't pretend.
Like-
I mean, sometimes I
No, but like...
What do you mean really runs?
Like big distances.
Okay, let's elaborate on that.
I run big things.
She enjoys...
I like to run in the hills and in like trails and, just kind of get out
Have
into
you done
nature.
a marathon?
I have done an off-road marathon. I have not done a road one.
Well, off-road sounds more awful than an on-road one.
More interesting.
It sounds hardcore.
enjoys entering 50K races.
Okay, so you wait. When I said marathon, you're like, yeah.
No, because that's my goal.
So you've entered a 50K. When is that?
I'd entered one in February, but then I had an injury that stopped me from doing that.
What's the injury? I don't know. I'm just really interested.
I fell off a kid's scooter.
Oh no! So not running related.
No.
Oh, no.
But anyway,
No, we need to hear
Why
more
are you
about that.
embarrassed about? Have you heard our podcast? We have much more embarrassing things that we share, and you just fell off a scooter.
I gave myself a brain injury.
Oh, a concussion.
And a concussion. Yeah.
Wait,
my
what do you
brain.
mean? A brain injury and a concussion?
my
Isn't
brain
the
was, like,
concussion the
bleeding.
brain? What?
You can have a concussion.
Wait, what? Your brain was bleeding?
Yeah.
Inside?
Yeah.
Did you know about this?
Yeah, I had to reschedule my appointment.
Oh my goodness! So you got like a CT scan. I'm
Yep.
trying to throw some words out there.
I did get a
okay.
CT scan and it showed a subdural hematoma. Yeah.
And now
it was quite
what?
bad.
Is that bad?
It was, yeah, but it was all fine. I had 2 black eyes. Couldn't go to work.
What? You had 2 black eyes. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw the black eyes a few weeks afterwards.
What have you done? Anyway, so I couldn't do the 50k race then.
No,
Hold
you
on,
did not.
just a second.
Jesus,
just
like,
to elaborate.
lecturer.
Yeah, but just to also elaborate. Did this while trying to do a trick on a scooter?
Sometimes
You're a cool mum. You're a cool mum.
yeah, I wasn't wearing a helmet, not that cool. Yeah.
Oh,
It's one of those moments that was like so many lessons learned, you know? So many. I had to, walk around with 2 black eyes and be like, it's
that's
not domestic
awful.
violence.
Were you? No. Were you in a lot of pain?
I think I was more embarrassed.
Okay, so more your ego.
I kind
was
of
in
like
pain.
I fell, I scratched it. I was like, oh, that hurt. And then I woke up the next day and was like 1 black eye, and then the next day another black eye. And I was like, I better go get this checked out. But yeah, no, concussion is awful.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah.
The experience of it was really
How long did it take to recover?
3 months.
Yeah.
It was 3 months for me, and the concussion clinic said that was probably one of the quickest
Yeah.
recoveries I've seen. They were really impressed with that. So I was like, I feel for people that have had
So
concussion.
did you work in those 3 months?
I did. I took 2 weeks off. I had to reduce my clients
Yeah.
because I couldn't. I just couldn't. Yeah,
No.
couldn't hold it all. But
Concussions are
interesting experience.
awful. Okay, so not this time, not the 50K.
Didn't do that.
Didn't do the 50K.
So no. So I've got
But when
one.
is it?
I've got one in February and one in March,
What?
and just thinking
What?
about one at the end of this year.
What do you mean? One in February and then one in March is 4 weeks apart. You've got
yeah.
100Ks within in a month.
That's the plan. Yeah, but we'll see.
Jeez,
We'll see.
Louise. Athlete. She runs for real.
Yeah.
Not like our
helps.
5K.
I know. 6K while I'm chatting to Holly, Anna. Just chilling.
Did you go in the... No, it was raining. Did you go in the weekend?
No, I didn't. Anyway, so running.
Helps me with my mental health.
Yeah, seeing the
right.
supervisor.
That's what we were.
Yeah. So basically, therapy for a therapist. Running. So we've got your choice of exercise that you enjoy. What else do you do?
Connection, so social connection, friends or family. That's always just helpful for my mental health anyway. And then what else? Wine with friends. It's always helpful too.
Yes.
All the stuff that, like, if you're experiencing anxiety or depression, that I would say in the first instance, it's like called behavioural activation, where you do things that you enjoy, like you get a sense of pleasure from, things that give you a sense of achievement, like I do well at this, and then like social connection, like they're just things that if I'm telling people to do, I'm like, do it yourself.
Yeah. Cool. That's cool.
Social connection is tough though when you're going through a tough time. I don't know. That's the one that I pull back from if I'm going through a tough time.
You hibernate.
Yeah, I hibernate, but I always feel so much better for being with people like yourself, non-judgmental.
You have to pick the right people.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's probably the most helpful thing, isn't it? Is actually identifying who in your life you never feel judged by. You never feel like you have to kind of be on for. Those really high trust relationships, they're the helpful ones. So they're the big kind of 4 for you. Running, supervisor, friends and family, wine with friends.
I like that those are separate. When they're kind of like the same. But just with wine.
Has it taken you a number of years to kind of identify that they're really important, or it's something you've always kind of had in your toolbox?
No, I definitely think that it's progressed, right? Like you get, one of the things in your training is you got to have good boundaries, you've got to have good self-care, because if you can't look after yourself, you're not going to be able to look after anyone else.
Yeah.
But I think that when you start off, you kind of know this, but you really don't take it on board. And then the more that you progress, then you're like, oh no, I got to put this, I got to put this stuff in. Yeah. Sometimes like even random things, like if I've had a really big day, if I need to, I don't know, look after the kids or do something and I need to separate my work day from that, like I might go and have a shower just to kind of, or like, go for a surf or something just to kind of like, so there'll be other little things.
Well?
Yeah, I try to.
She's cool, eh? Surfer girl, athlete. You try. I like you to say you try to. You're like, please don't think I'm good because you'll see me imposter syndrome,
like wiping out.
Oh, there's Amy. And then she's in the water. Is that a concussion?
What's your head?
Do you know what though? I've had a concussion before, and quite bad as well. It took me maybe 2 or 3 months to recover, and I feel like I'm more prone to them now because whenever if I get my head hit by anything like a fucking volleyball, then
is that how you got the concussion?
No. The first one, the original. I was. You weren't there, so you can't.
I know, but the story's so good.
This is a boring story, but it was raining and I was running. This is not the volleyball story, by the way.
No, it's fine. I don't know why.
Why are you laughing so hard about it?
You getting concussed is hilarious.
Why? That was
I don't know.
awful. I literally split my head open.
Sorry,
Is that funny?
I'll think of something serious. Keep telling the story.
No, I was just running and then there was a window open on like this walkway. Do you need some time out? And then ran into the corner of the window and completely split my head open.
Oh my goodness, that's
yeah, because I'm so short. But the design of the house
sounds
is
awful.
So shit. Yeah. Meanwhile, this girl. Thank God you're not the therapist here. Can you imagine if you're cracking up at your patient? You would lose it.
Like I said, concussion is not funny.
No, it's not. And
Have
do you
you
know
ever
what?
had one?
No, I haven't. And touch wood, because karma is coming for me on this particular topic. Anyway,
but I do feel like I'm more prone to them now because whenever I hit my head.
Yeah.
Get out.
No,
Go.
I have heard of that as well.
Yeah. Whenever I hit my head, I have a headache for like 24 hours. Yeah.
Sorry, but like...
Do you want to share what you're laughing about?
No, but just like we played beach volleyball for a little while before I hurt my hip, right? And I don't know what it was with her head, but the balls were so attracted to it.
My head was a magnet. Like, not even the ball from our own court. It would be the balls from the other courts.
And it just, sorry.
Kind of like, I've had a head injury.
Yeah. Please hit my head.
Yeah.
It's all
Why
red
does that
for you
happen?
to see. Yeah. Yeah, but they are, concussions are shit. They're so shit. Sorry. Oh, no, shit is all right. Yeah, good. Thank you. I forget what's allowed and what's not.
It's like, are you allowed to swear?
Did you ask that beforehand?
No, I thought it. And then I was like, don't ask that.
Well, it's just because you're on the But you can. Yeah, I'm sure you've... Do I normally get beeped out? I have heard myself being beeped out. Three. Wow, you counted. Jeez.
Counting how much work he's going to do after we've finished recording.
Oh, no, not today. Yeah, not today. Yeah.
We did get moved though. We were at a time where
8
children
a.m.
could hear us, and we
On
had
the way
been
to school.
moved.
Did you get shifted?
We got
shifted, and we got told after the fact as well.
This is
Now we're on at
inappropriate for
11.
younger ears.
Yeah, 11. Oh yeah, we've got 5 minutes left. Not something I need to say.
Didn't we talk about this last week?
Did I mention it last week?
I think I mentioned it last week, and you were like, "You don't need to share that
you
with
don't
the
need to share that. Is there any other questions you've got for Amy?
I mean, so many questions, but we've only got 5 minutes left. So I think it's just really interesting to hear from yourself, a psychologist, who many people would assume absolutely has their life nailed and has no issues and has no challenges and all of that. That's not the case, that, you know, you have to invest in your well-being like everyone does. So I think that's really helpful as well. In that way, I think that really reduces the stigma for anyone who is struggling at the moment, because if someone has specialised in this and still has to manage it, then that's going to be true for everyone. So that's really cool. I think it's concerning how hard it is to access support in this country, and it would be amazing if there was progress on that. What I was going to say is sort of I remember Mike King talking about it, right? He has the Gumboot Friday, and that's a charity. So they raise money to pay therapists to support.
Counsellors,
yeah. And I think, why do we need a charity to support the mental health of young people in this country? That's a bit sad. I don't want to leave on that note, though.
I was just going to say that if somebody has thought about seeing a therapist, and if they do have the means for it, I hope this podcast has showed them that, you're not scary. Like you are like normal people, and you're cool, and you're a surfer gal, and you do funny things like tricks on a scooter, like, because I think part of it as well is that it is scary, and you kind of feel like because you're opening up to somebody, and you don't want to be judged. And I remember when I was about to go see my therapist, I asked Jess, like, how does it go? Like, what if it's awkward and there's awkward silence? And Jess was like, no, it's not on you to, she'll ask questions, and, it will just kind of flow from there. Yeah. So I think that will be helpful either way, and maybe you want to come back at some point and we can chat some more.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And also if anyone wants to, like, ask questions or send an email, around
nice.
accessing help or anything. Like, you've got my details, so
Cool.
And you've got an Instagram page for yourself as a psychologist too.
Yeah.
Is that right?
We can share that if you want.
Yeah, it's just more for, like, giving tips and stuff to people who might not be able to access
personal
mental health. Yeah,
That's cool.
just like Dr. Amy, psychologist. So, yeah.
Cool.
Let's
We'll
definitely
share it.
that.
Okay, we've got to wrap it up. Anything else, Jess?
No, I'm done.
No? Okay, see you next time, everybody.